your eyes. Now forget what you see. What do you feel?
A dream is gone, but where there's hope, somewhere something is calling for you. Two worlds, one family. Trust your heart, let fate decide to guide these lives we see.
You suck.
What's up, good people? It's the 8-Bit Academic here. First and foremost, welcome to my channel. This is my very first video and my very first attempt at creating what I hope will be interesting and entertaining content for anyone within the YouTube community who may be inclined. The idea being, in case you haven't seen my channel intro, is that I record myself playing old school video games from bygone eras in gaming history, tell you a little bit about the game itself, and then proceed into the main topic of the video, which will be made up of any random facts, stories, or information about a wide variety of topics ranging from history, science, religion, entertainment, politics, conspiracies, etc. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? Here's some footage of me failing miserably at playing the very first console game I ever owned back in 2001 on the PlayStation console. Disney's Tarzan, also known as Disney's action game Tarzan in certain countries. It was developed in the space of 3 months by a company called Digital Eclipse, back in a time when Disney still made really good animated films and had their own interactive video game thing going on as well, making many of their flagship titles of the 90s into hit video games. What can I say? Corporate franchising at its finest. Eventually, the game would be released in 1999 for the Sony PlayStation 1 or PSX as many people call it nowadays, Microsoft Windows computers, and later on the Nintendo 64 in the year 2000. So yeah, hey, that's Tarzan. Cool game, huh? Anyway, did you know that the continent of Africa is literally falling apart? No, like seriously, it is.
No way! Yes way!
Okay, I know, the title is very clickbaity, but hey, gotta appeal to them YouTube algorithm gods, you know? Current science estimates that within the next 50 million years or so, at least that's one of the roughest of rough estimates, we may see the formation of a new ocean running right through the more eastern side of the continent. So why do scientists think this? Well, it's down to what experts in the field of geology call plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is a scientific theory used to explain and understand the movements of the Earth's lithosphere. The lithosphere being the rocky outer layer of Earth. It is made up of the crust, which is the very surface part where all of us live and move about in our daily lives, and the part of the upper mantle, which is the semi-solid magma layer consisting of molten rock, iron, magnesium, and silicon. If you don't know what magma is, go do some homework. I can't explain everything, or this video will go on forever. The core idea of plate tectonics is that the Earth's crust and upper mantle are composed of numerous major and minor plates that fit together tightly but are in continuous motion, moving either toward or apart from each other. This is why sometimes we have things like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and even how mountains, valleys, canyons, and the like are formed. The whole idea started back in 1911 with a German meteorologist and geophysicist named Alfred Wegener, who was doing research at a university library when he came upon a scientific paper that listed ancient fossils of identical plants and animals that had been found on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Wegener felt that this was extremely peculiar and wondered how the same organisms could have evolved in two different places that was separated by thousands of miles of ocean. Some scientists at the time believed that land bridges had once existed between these places, but Wegener looked at the maps of the coastlines of Africa and South America and thought, what if those continents had once been joined together and then moved apart? From that idea, Wegener came up with his theory of continental drift, which at the time was regarded as utterly ridiculous and stupid. Science, the beacon of open-mindedness, enlightenment, and acceptance of new ideas. Am I right? However, by the 1950s and 60s, scientists had come around to believing that Wegener might have been right in his line of thinking, and that pieces of the Earth's crust are slowly moving, a process that explains many of the planet's geological features. A very good example of this is how the once prehistoric supercontinent of Pangaea that existed between 200 to 300 million years ago gradually shifted apart into the continents we have today, almost like taking a beautiful puzzle, breaking that shit up, and ruining all your grandma's hard work into putting it all together.
How come you suck?
I lack confidence.
The movement of the plates is known as tectonic shift, and it's been going on for a very long ass time, like ridiculously long, like probably even before the ancient aliens arrived. But that's a topic for another day, and if you subscribe, you might get to see it. A recent study by Johns Hopkins University, North America, published in August 2019 in the scientific journal Nature, concludes that plate tectonics began about 2.5 billion years ago and has been continuing at an extremely slow rate since then. Now that we've got all that scientific explaining out of the way, how does this relate to the continental split of Africa? Well, for a very long time, scientists have thought that Africa sat upon a single tectonic plate, but thanks to ongoing studies since the 1970s, there's sufficient evidence to show that the plate is breaking apart along the East African Rift. What is the East African Rift, you might ask? A 3,000 kilometer or roughly 1,864 mile continental rift extending from the Horn of Africa to western Mozambique, and possibly forming two new plates called the Nubian and Somali plates. Added to this mountain of evidence is the fact that in 2018, a massive crack opened in the ground in southwestern Kenya due to heavy rains which measured around 7 kilometers in length, and decided to have a section of the Nairobi-Nairobi highway for lunch. Basically, it swallowed it up. There is still ongoing debate as to what exactly might be causing this phenomena, but the current prevailing theory is that plumes of heat within Earth's mantle cause the lithosphere, the crust and solid upper mantle I mentioned earlier in the video, beneath Kenya and Ethiopia to dome and stretch. This essentially resulted in a thinner lithosphere, which in turn generated huge volcanic eruptions called flood basalts, which is basically when lava comes gushing out from emerging fissures like floodwaters, and fractured the brittle continental crust into a series of faults. From above, these faults, which together make up the Greater Rift Valley, look like deep crevices and elongated basins separated by regions of higher land, so almost like big cracks stretching across the region. GPS measurements show that across the East African Rift, the Nubian and Somali plates are diverging at an average rate of 7 millimeters or 0.2 inches every year, slowly pulling the continent apart. Today the rift remains above sea level, but as it widens, the land within the valley will sink, and as I mentioned earlier, will eventually lead to the formation of a new ocean and separating the entire Horn of Africa from the mainland. With all this being said though, there's still some doubt within the scientific community on whether this will definitely happen and when. But if it did, it would take tens of millions of years, with some estimates giving a more concise timeline of about 50 million years. As for the crack that happened in 2018 in Kenya, the consensus among geologists today is that it was a pre-existing crevice that had lain undetected because it was packed with volcanic ash from eruptions in the distant past, when the Earth was a little younger. It suddenly burst open during heavy rains when the deep layers of waterlogged ash collapsed. So in the end, despite all scientific evidence, there's still ongoing debate about whether East Africa will split from the rest of the continent and become its own strong, independent, individual continent that don't need no mainland, or whether the African continent will simply end up with a few massive cracks and scars across its surface like the skin of a homeless man which hasn't felt the embrace of body lotion in years. Either way, it's a very interesting thought experiment of what might happen if Africa did end up splitting apart in the far future, and how it would affect the people who might be living in that time, if we humans are still around, and if we haven't blown ourselves up first. How would it change the concept of being African? How would it affect geopolitics or cultural development, and even the very natural element and environment of those particular regions affected by the splits? Only time will tell. Anyway, that's it for today's topic. Look, I personally do not like that I have to do this at the end of my videos, but we must give likes and subscriptions to the algorithm gods. So if you enjoyed the video, the informative nature of it, and my terrible gaming playthroughs and dry humor, maybe consider subscribing and giving us a like. If I have missed any information or gotten anything wrong, feel free to correct me or point me in the right direction in the comments so that I may learn more. I'm no expert, I don't proclaim to be, and it's as much of a learning experience for me as it is for you. Many of these topics are simply a matter of fascination and interest for me, and I love researching things and sharing information with others, just for the fun of it. It's why I started this channel in the first place. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for more 8-Bit Academy.
Good, but I would say it's horrible yet terrible. Ugly yet disgusting. You suck.